Welcome to Lit Technology, the channel that loves to talk about technology. And in this video, we are going to take a look at Sony Ps5 DualSense Edge controller. If you love to watch more videos from us, subscribe to the channel. But enough delaying, and let us head on to the video. This is Sony's first attempt at a professional controller, the DualSense Edge. Sure, it has experimented with adding attachments to add back buttons, but this offers significantly more. A pair of mappable back paddles, swappable joysticks with different cap options, adjustable triggers, a long braided cable, a carrying case, and other features are added by the DualSense Edge. All, a $200 PS5 controller would cost you $130 more than a standard DualSense controller and would be half as expensive as the PS5 Digital Edition. This is excessive for the majority of people, but if you remember to charge the battery frequently, the DualSense Edge can prove to be worthwhile for PlayStation devotees and competitive players who want the greatest option available. At 280 grams, the DualSense Edge appeared to be heavy when it first launched. The DualSense Edge weighs 322 grams when set up outside of the case on our scale, making it heavier. It has a luxurious feel in the hands. At first sight, it resembles the current DualSense extremely closely, but it has a black trackpad, buttons, and joystick covers that are shiny rather than matte. Because new controller seems to draw fingerprints, I personally like the matte appearance of the original, but I don't think most people will find that bothersome. The DualSense Edge doesn't significantly alter how the original DualSense feels in your hands, and overall, it feels better. I'll take that swap. Naturally, there are a few extras as well. The two function buttons protrude from the bottom and allow you to alter conversation volume or switch control scheme profiles mid-game. The rubberized grips on the inside of the controller's grips greatly increase comfort. The controller is shipped with all of its necessary accessories, including a long braided USB cable, 2 high dome and 2 low dome stick caps, 4 back buttons, 2 level style and 2 half dome buttons, and a special housing to secure the cable to the controller for those who prefer to play in wired mode. Additionally, the case contains a QR code that links to a digital user guide. The ability to swap the joysticks without using any tools is a cool design element. The controller's front has a little release latch that allows you to remove the cover. Each joystick module has additional levers, and you can just swap one out and put another one in. Replacement modules are available from Sony for $19.99 per stick. It's a covert admission that Sony's controller's joystick drift can, in fact, be an issue. A part of me wishes Sony had completely revamped the look of this controller. However, since it didn't, allowing stick swapping without ruining the entire controller for those who are most inclined to push their controllers hard seems like a good repairability trade-off. When I originally opened the DualSense Edge, my first thought was to install a tall dome to the right stick, great for aiming in competitive shooters, and leave the usual cap on the left stick. Although I initially preferred the level style back buttons, I soon discovered that my middle fingers could easily press the half domes instead. This felt like a perfect compromise because I have experimented with these levers throughout my career and frequently found them to be in the way. Of course, I may change. The Xbox Elite Controller Series 2, which has 4 back buttons, has less back buttons, allowing you to totally replace the face buttons if you like. Don't worry about any other accessories you already own because the DualSense Edge's design is so close to the DualSense that it can fit in the same charging cradle with the PlayStation logo and connect to the same headphones using a 3.5mm connection. The system will ask you to take a tour of the controller, explaining its features when you first connect your DualSense Edge. Then you can begin button remapping. Although I'm accustomed to the typical PlayStation layout, this is the critical location to modify your back paddles. Even in the middle of a game, you can switch between different profiles by using the function menu. The standard controller's built-in lights, vibration levels, and trigger effect intensity can all be altered, in addition to the other alterations you can make. With the DualSense Edge, I felt that my gaming skills had improved. Despite not being, I felt like it. Maybe you can buy confidence for $200. You generally get the impression that you are playing PlayStation. However, I assigned the back buttons to important operations, which at least gave me the impression that I was getting better. I had 2 sets of sticks in Fortnite, one for jumping and the other for the build menu, considerably reducing the amount of time I had to take my hands off the sticks. This is where some people complain about the 2 missing back buttons. I continued to reach up to the triangle button when I tried to transition from a weapon to my pickaxe. I had one trigger set to jump in Rocket League and another set to boost. The 2 buttons were plenty for me in such situation. Narrative-based games are some of my favorites. I'm accustomed to the typical controller configuration in Spider-Man Miles Morales. Although I tried assigning the back buttons to various combat moves, I didn't feel as though I was gaining the same edge I did during competitive play. Spider-Man employs adaptive triggers, and I discovered that the adaptive functionality vanished unless I kept the controller at the default trigger setting. PC gaming involves some complexity. When I attached this PlayStation 5 controller to a PC, Steam recognized it as a standard PlayStation 5 controller, but Windows identified it as a DualSense Edge. But when I started playing Doom Eternal, I was shocked to see that the Edge's back buttons were set to the previous PS5 profile I had used, which allowed me to easily jump over foes and dash through them. It would be fantastic if Sony could create an app for the Edge, but it's also feasible for game creators to do that and enable customizations without first going to a PC. Sony should make sure its flagship controller functions as smoothly as possible on the PC as it releases more of its games there. The DualSense Edge's shorter battery life than the conventional controller is the bad news in this situation. In December, Sony reportedly said to The Verge, due to the addition of numerous capabilities while maintaining the same ergonomic form factor as the original DualSense controller, the DualSense Edge wireless controller's operational time is slightly less than that of the DualSense wireless controller. We sought to give comprehensive, high-performance features while maintaining a healthy balance between wireless operating time. Additionally, for competitive players who prefer playing with a connected connection to minimize Wi-Fi interference and want to save battery life, the longer USB braided cable is perfect. I got around 5 hours of use out of the DualSense Edge during my testing, which comprised a mix of Fortnite, Rocket League, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and Doom Eternal on the PC side. If you adjust a few settings, you might be able to squeeze out more of a charge. Rumble and haptics were both left on, and the controller light was set to bright. I used the factory default settings. Your time between charges might be increased by dimming the light and turning off the feedback. This isn't really good in general. We'll have to wait and see how this holds up over time, as my DualSense from launch has already lost some capacity. The Edge still fits in a charging cradle for those who care the most to keep it charged, and there is a handy Velcro charging pass-through at the top of the case. Playing on the DualSense Edge is a wonderful experience, as long as they're willing to charge it a little bit more frequently than the conventional controller. Devoted PlayStation gamers who enjoy competitive games and are wearing down the joysticks on their current controllers can benefit from the Edge. It's challenging to suggest a controller that costs more than twice what a standard DualSense commands for the majority of consumers. Halfway to another PlayStation, you are, but for professional controllers, it happens frequently. Microsoft's Pro controller costs $179. This is definitely the greatest Pro controller to buy if you only play on the PlayStation. Users that alternate between PlayStation and PC will still be able to use it, but they won't have access to all of the features available on PC right now. Since the majority of games now support Xbox controllers on Windows, an Xbox Elite Series 2 would be a better option if you just use PCs. But there is finally a good gamepad for you if you've been waiting for years for an official Pro controller for the PlayStation and like a luxurious feel at the cost of a little battery life. If you enjoyed watching, please consider subscribing to the channel and liking our videos. It helps us a ton making new videos like this one. Also, comment down below if you are planning to purchase the PS5 controller. Thanks for watching, and see the next PS5 release on Lit Technology.